All right, hey everybody. Going to take a look at a Ranger here next for some hotbar setup for ISBoxer. And hopefully this sparks some good conversation. I am not terribly familiar with the Ranger. This is one of the newest classes that I gotten up to 125. I played some a bit like as not necessarily main, but quite a bit like around like the 75, 80 level range area there. So it's been a hot minute, a lot of new stuff there. So not too familiar with it. And I've changed up some stuff here that might easily be able to be reverted back. But I switched it up just to kind of help preserve some mana, because Rangers definitely burn through mana pretty quickly here. So I'll talk through that here in just a moment. If you got any ideas, if you think it's possibly can be changed up to get better, this is one class I feel like I'm definitely leaving a lot off the table there. So I'll kind of get going into what I got set up there in my hotbar. You'll see here, just same as some of the other characters you saw in the Zerker video. I've got my hotbars down here with everything on here. The ones that I'm not using up at the top here, just to make sure I don't potentially overlap with other hotbars from other characters on this same account. But into what we've actually got going on here for spamming. So first things first is Elemental Arrow. It doesn't do any damage, but adds a debuff to the mob, which will increase damage from any cold and fire-based spells. So Rangers have some good fire-based stuff here, so definitely good there. And then obviously Beast Lords, Wizards will absolutely love you. I think Necros as well. So keep that on there just for some good added DPS. Kick is on auto skill, but since they don't have a ton here, I just kind of keep it in there just for the heck of it. Focus Maelstrom is a nice 12-second recast that does a couple of arrow hits. These arrows can also headshot too, so always good to keep that going if you're up against a mob that can be headshotted. Spire here might be otherwise normally set for like a burn rotation. It's a bit of a longer 7.5 minute recast. But Rangers aren't really huge burst burn DPS tunes, not like Beast Lords and Zerkers that can, easily spike up over 6 million DPS for quick burns. So I keep it there just so his normal DPS just gets a nice little boost every few minutes there. From a burn standpoint, like their bread and butter is like the Auspice, which is just good added DPS to everybody there. So you could keep this in with your burn, not have it here, have it in both. It's not going to do a huge difference like either which way. Jolting Kicks here just drops your aggro a good chunk with a little bit of extra damage. Good to have in there. Reflexive Needles is one. It's on a bit of a longer cast here, 10 minutes, but doesn't share a cooldown with much else there other than its own spell line. So good to keep that popped off for some good high hits, as well as the Reflection here is a nice little heal over time for your whole group. So just helps that out a little bit. Bane, again, self-explanatory, just in this new expansion. Must have for your spam to keep that buff going as soon as it wears out. And then into the spells that I've got. So I only have the arrow lines in here. You can definitely add in some of the fire direct damage ones here, but I found that is what's really draining mana. So especially like the big one that a lot of just normal 125 guides suggest is the Deluge, which does a couple of hits of a big ton of fire damage. But it's on a really fast cast with no recast to it, so it'll just spam this off over and over and over again. Good DPS for sure, but this just seems to what drains my mana a ton. So as I was kind of fiddling around and playing with what I can remove and not remove, when I took this off, it just helped keep my mana up much better. So without a huge ton loss in HP. So I'll kind of go over how I do have that going in a second here. So what I do have in here from a spell set is my inevitable shots. First one always for sure, because this is the one that causes all the other arrow hits to do more damage, so good to keep that going as often as possible. Your Frenzy of Arrows here is just a little volley of arrows, so nice to keep that in there, obviously. And then your Progressive ability here, which just does some good huge hits and lowers hatred as well. So nice to keep those going on there. These three all have really long cast times, so if you wanted to keep your Summer's Deluge in there, make sure it's after that. Otherwise, it would just keep going to Deluge because it's got such a fast recast there. And then I got the breastplate click in there, which does similar to inevitable shots. It just adds some extra damage to your next, I think it's like 20 hits of arrows there. So just keep that refreshed every time it comes back up on. And again, always make sure item is the last thing in your set there. So onto some of the other spells that I do have in here. So my number pad, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 here, I normally dedicate to damage over time abilities. So there's not multiple keys bound to there because you can't spam dots for most classes because they're instant casting. So you can't have multiple tied to the same number because it'll just recast the same first one over and over again. So in like a normal fight situation, like I'm going to hit 1 to start up the fight, start everybody assisting. And then the number 3 is what I'm going to then tap a couple of times because that'll trigger like slows and debuffs from Beast Lords, Shamans, Enchanter type things. And then, just start spamming 2. So what I've got on the Ranger here, just to help with those spells, so that they still get some good DPS from them, but not spamming in the drain mana. So number 3, I've got in there the Boon, which it does some direct damage, but increases also the next 2 fire spells that you cast there by a good chunk there. So at the start of the fight, I'm going to cast that on a mob, and it puts this little buff on me that has 2 ticks on there. So then when in between spamming 2, like I'll pop numpad 1 to get first set of dots off from, Beast Lords, Shaman, Shadow Knight, or whatever has them going on. But for the Ranger, it's going to cast his Deluge there. So it'll hit the mob with that and get some good extra added DPS, take a tick away from the buff over there. And then numpad 2 is going to cast the Ash, which is just another nice good hit of damage there, and then eat up that second tick there. And then 3 and 4, I've got the dots in there. So 3 is the Swarm of Fern Life here, which is the one that it also casts a 16,000 point damage shield on target. So keep that refreshed on the main tank, and then 4 is just the regular Hotari Swarm, which is just good dot damage there. So I found that this is helped a lot get some DPS in there from direct damage spells, but doesn't spam Deluge over and over and over again and start draining mana. So not the ideal from DPS standpoint, definitely losing off on some. But from a boxing standpoint, it helps ensure that the Ranger, I don't have to pop over there constantly and try to click a mod rod or something like that, or sit him to med. It just keeps longer sustained DPS, not running out of mana that then prevents me from casting like the Inevitable and Reciprocal and all that kind of stuff down there. So if you guys got any thoughts there on that, definitely let me know. This is one of those adaptations. Like if this was my main, wouldn't be doing this whatsoever. I'd be making sure I get those casts in there often because I could then better manage the mana use myself here, maybe draw it back a little bit. But from a boxing standpoint, I think this has kind of helped quite a bit. Again, with the mana usage. Down towards the bottom there in this numpad here, again, if you remember from some of the other videos, the 9 key I use as the numpad 9 key I use for AE burns. So I've got the Maelstrom here, which hits a couple of targets in front. Was it up to 8 in a cone in front of you? And then the Frenzy of Arrows, similar AE ability here. And Rangers have a couple of more ones there. So if I need to concentrate a little bit more on AE damage, I can swap out a couple of spells and add some more in there. But for what I've been doing here, like that's been pretty decent here. The Zerker does so much AE damage, he kind of just takes care of it all anyways for the character. Other thing that I do have set up for the Ranger. So on my main hotbar here, the hotbar 1, which is just the 1 through the number bar at the top of your keyboard. I have a spinner here. So I've got 2 different setups going here. So I don't know, I've got Bane in there. We don't get rid of that. So the number 1 here, the spinner 1 here, this is going to be the bow. So this is going to set up auto fire. So if I want my Ranger doing range damage, it's that. And then down here is just regular old melee assist here. So depending on the situation, this is easy just to spin this up and down, whether I want to do range damage or actual melee damage. But definitely try to keep mental note to pay attention to that. if you're fighting and you forget to switch it around, you might be in a situation where we'll click here and then you're just going to get spammed with this is too close because you intend to do melee, but you've got it left there. So pay attention to that, and then if you need to, just flip it around, and you're all set to there to go. And we'll do some good extra damage here and start spamming through some stuff here. So yeah, that's the Ranger setup there. Again, definitely drop some comments if you've got some ideas what we could do to improve this. Because again, I feel like I'm definitely leaving some off the table here. I can get better while still not having to worry a ton about just draining mana endlessly and quickly. So yeah, let me know, everybody, in the comments below. And thanks for watching.